The Patriarchate of Aquileia was an episcopal see in northeastern Italy, centered on the ancient city of Aquileia, situated at the head of the Adriatic, on what is now the Italian seacoast, at the confluence of the Anse and the Torre. For many centuries it played an important part in history, particularly in that of the Holy See in northern Italy, and a number of church councils were held there. No longer a residential bishopric, it is today classified as a titular see. History. From bishopric to patriarchate. Ancient tradition asserts that the see was founded by St. Mark, sent there by St. Peter, previous to his mission to Alexandria. St. Hermagoras is said to have been its first bishop and to have died a martyr's death. At the end of the 3rd century, another martyr, St. Hilarius, was bishop of Aquileia. In the course of the 4th century, the city was the chief ecclesiastical center for the region about the head of the Adriatic, Regio X of the Roman Emperor Augustus's 11 regions of Italy, Venetia e Istria. Quote, in 381, St. Valerian appears as Metropolitan Bishop of the churches in this territory. His synod of that year, held against the Arians, was attended by 32 bishops. Valerian was succeeded by St. Chromatius, known for his homiletic and exegetical works. He promoted the work of Sts. Jerome and Rufinus and kept contact with Sts. Ambrose of Milan and John Chrysostom. In time, part of western Illyria, and to the north, Noricum and Rhaetia, came under the jurisdiction of Aquileia. Roman cities like Verona, Trent, Pola, Belluno, Feltre, Vicenza, Treviso and Padua were among its suffragans in the 5th and 6th centuries. As metropolitans of such an extensive territory, and representatives of Roman civilization among the Ostrogoths and Lombards, the archbishops of Aquileia sought and obtained from the barbarian masters the honorific title of Patriarch, personal, however, as yet to each titular of the see. This title aided in promoting and at the same time justifying the strong tendency towards independence that was quite manifest in the relations of Aquileia with Rome, a trait it shared with its rival, Ravenna, which, less fortunate, never obtained the patriarchal dignity, owing to the acquiescence of Pope Vigilius in the condemnation of the 3 chapters, in the 5th General Council at Constantinople. The bishops of northern Italy, and among them those of the Venetia and Istria, broke off communion with Rome, under the leadership of Macedonius of Aquileia. This schism of the 3 chapters provided the opportunity for the bishop of Aquileia to assume the title Patriarch. Macedonius's successor Apollinus I began using the title around 560. Meanwhile, by the end of the next decade, the Lombards overran all of northern Italy. In 568, the Patriarch of Aquileia was obliged to flee, with the treasures of his church, to the little island of Grado, near Trieste, a last remnant of the imperial possessions in northern Italy. This political change did not affect the relations of the Patriarchate with Rome. Its bishops, whether in Lombard or imperial territory, persistently refused all invitations to a reconciliation. Split with Grado. Various efforts of the popes at Rome and the exarchs at Ravenna, both peaceful and otherwise, met with persistent refusal to renew the bonds of unity until the election of Candidian as Metropolitan of Aquileia. Weary of 50 years' schism, those of his suffragans whose sees lay within the empire joined him in submission to Rome. His mainland suffragans among the Lombards persisted in the schism. They went further and elected in Aquileia itself Patriarch John, so that henceforth there were 2 little patriarchates in northern Italy, Aquileia and Grado and Old Aquileia. Gradually the schism lost its vigor. At the Synod of Pavia, Old Aquileia reconciled with Rome, and Pope Gregory II granted the pallium to Patriarch Cyrenus of Aquileia in 723. It was probably during the 7th century that the popes recognized in the metropolitans of Grado the title of Patriarch of Aquileia, in order to offset its assumption by the metropolitans of Old Aquileia. In succeeding centuries it continued in use by both, but had no longer any practical significance. In 628, the Patriarchs of Old Aquileia transferred the residence to Cormons. Patriarch Callistus moved the patriarchal residence to Cividale del Friuli in 737, and it remained there until the 13th century, when it was moved again, this time to Udine in 1223. In the last decade of the 8th century, the creation of a new metropolitan see at Salzburg added to the humiliation of Old Aquileia, which long claimed as its own the territory of Carinthia. Still later, Patriarch Anse of Aquileia accepted the arbitration of Charlemagne, by which the Carinthian territory north of the Drave was relinquished to Arno of Salzburg. After the death of Ursus, Maxentius picked up where he left off and solicited funds from Charlemagne's court to rebuild Aquileia. Maxentius served as the Patriarch of Aquileia from 811 till his death in 837. Nevertheless, the Hungarian invasion of the 9th century and the decline of imperial control increased the authority of the patriarchs. Expansion and collapse. German feudal influence was henceforth more and more tangible in the ecclesiastical affairs of Old Aquileia. In 1011, one of its patriarchs, John IV, surrounded by 30 bishops, consecrated the new cathedral of Bamberg. Poppo, or Wolfgang, a familiar and minister of Emperor Conrad II, consecrated his own cathedral at Aquileia on the 13th of July 1031, in honor of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Under his reign the city also received a new line of walls. Poppo also managed to free the Patriarch definitively from the Duchy of Carinthia and warred against Grado. In 1047, the Patriarch Eberhard, a German, assisted at the Roman Synod of that year, in which it was declared that Aquileia was inferior in honor only to Rome, Ravenna, and Milan. In 1063, however, Pope Leo IX declared Grado to have the supremacy, but Gottbald retained the support of Emperor Henry III. Temporal power. In 1077, the Patriarch Sigurd of Belstein received the ducal title of Friuli from German King Henry IV, an act traditionally regarded as the birth of the state of Aquileia, or the Patria del Friuli. The Patriarchate subsequently extended its political control in the area. Regions under Aquileian control in the following centuries included Trieste, Carinthia, Styria, Cadore, and the central part of Istria. At its maximum height, the Patriarchate of Aquileia was one of the largest states in Italy. Noblemen from the Patriarchate were protagonists in the Crusades. In 1186, Patriarch Gottfried crowned Frederick Barbarossa's son, Henry VI, as King of Italy. In retaliation, Pope Urban III deposed him. In the early 13th century, particularly under Wolfgang von Erler and Bertrand, the Patriarchate had a flourishing industry and commerce, favored by a good road network, as well as a notable cultural activity. Damaged by earthquakes and other calamities, and reduced to a few hundred inhabitants, Aquileia was nearly abandoned in the 14th century. The capital of the state was moved first to Cividale and from 1238 to Udine in central Friuli, which had been a favorite residence of the Patriarch since the 13th century and soon became a large city. However, in the late century the Patriarchate had to face the increasing power of the Republic of Venice, as well as the inner strifes between its vassals, and also became encroached in the endless wars between Guelphs and Ghibellines. A certain recovery occurred during the rule of Bertrand, who was a successful administrator and military leader. He was killed in 1350 in a plot at the age of 90. Since the transfer of the patriarchal residence to Udine, the Venetians had never lived in peace with the Patriarchate, of whose imperial favor and tendencies they were jealous. In the 15th century the state also suffered a series of inner strifes between Cividale and Udine. In 1411 this turned into a war which was to mark the end of the Patriarchate, Cividale having received support from most of the Friulian communes, the Dark Carrara of Padua, the Emperor and the King of Hungary, while the latter was backed by the Venetians. In the December of that year the imperial army captured Udine and, in the following January, Louis of Teck was created Patriarch in the city's cathedral. On the 23rd of July 1419 the Venetians conquered Cividale and prepared to do the same with Udine. The city fell on the 7th of June 1420 after a long siege. Soon afterwards Gemona, San Daniele, Venzone and Tolmezzo followed. In 1445, after the defeated Patriarch Ludovico Trevisan at the Council of Florence had acquiesced in the loss of his ancient temporal estate in return for an annual salary of 5,000 ducats allowed him from the Venetian treasury. Henceforth only Venetians were allowed to hold the title of Patriarch of Aquileia. The former Friulian state was incorporated in the Republic of Venice with the name of Patria del Friuli, ruled by a general proveditore or a luogotenente living in Udine. Under Domenico Grimani, Austrian Friuli was added to the territory of the Patriarchate, whose jurisdiction thus extended over some Austrian dioceses. In 1623, Provost of Aquileia Albert Pesler, on behalf of Ferdinand II, Holy Roman Emperor, requested establishment of the bishopric of Gorizia and removing the Austrian dioceses from jurisdiction of the Patriarchate of Aquileia. Extinction. The 109th and last Patriarch of Aquileia was Daniel Dolphin, coadjutor since 1714 of his predecessor, Dionigio Dolphin, his successor since 1734, and a cardinal since 1747. The Venetian claim to the nomination of the Patriarch of Aquileia had been met by a counterclaim on the part of Austria since the end of the 15th century, when Austrian dioceses came to be included within the jurisdiction of the Patriarchate. Finally, Benedict XIV was chosen as arbiter. He awarded to the Archdiocese of Udine the Venetian territory in Friuli, and for the Austrian possessions he created a vicariate apostolic with residence at Gorizia, independent of the Patriarch of Aquileia and exempt, in whose name all jurisdiction was exercised. This decision was not satisfactory to Venice, and in 1751, with the 6th of July bull Injunctio Nobis, the Pope divided the Patriarchate into two archdioceses, one at Udine, with Venetian Friuli for its territory, the other at Gorizia, with jurisdiction over Austrian Friuli. Of the ancient Patriarchate, once so proud and influential, there remained but the parish church of Aquileia. It was made immediately subject to the Apostolic See, and to its rector was granted the right of using episcopal insignia 7 times in the year. Titular See. In 1968, Aquileia was inserted into the Catholic Church's list of titular no longer residential sees with metropolitan rank. As of 2014, the see is held by Charles John Brown, Apostolic Nuncio to Ireland, who was appointed on the 26th of November 2011.